Hey everyone, and welcome back to this side of the woods. If you're tuning in again, I appreciate you coming back. If this is your first time, welcome. Today I'm going to show you some more garbage that I found laying around as I was doing some work, and I stumbled across another piece of metal that was sitting in the ground, so I figured we as a team here could dig it out and see what artifacts we find today. So let's get that done, and then I'm going to buck up some firewood, and lastly I'm going to show you guys a quick fix on my coyote that I did the other day. Hopefully it helps you guys in the future if you do have a coyote. If not, well, maybe you learn something. Now here's the one thing that I found in the ground. I can't pull it up, so I don't know how deep it goes. Actually, I think it's just an old railroad tie. It might be sunk under. This could be extremely unsatisfying. I thought it was going to be something big. Anyways, let's dig that guy up quickly, and then I'll show you the other two things I found. Alright. Oh, this is extremely anticlimactic. Kind of. What does it say? Not for moving humans. DL. You got your handle there. I don't know if it just broke off or something or if it slid in, but there's treasure number one. I'll show you guys this. Maybe someone else will know that this was off of once upon a time. But it looks like it's just an old winch handle that clearly was in the back of something and they tossed it out. These are the other two things I found while digging away. This I don't know if it's an old... Actually, I have no idea what this is. It's got an eye hole and a shaft at the end. And then this I feel was off an old telephone line. I don't know why I feel that way, but I know a lot of the linemen use square nuts. If anyone knows what that is, let me know, because I'd be intrigued. I found another one last year. I threw it out though, but what they do, no idea. But that's the challenges you get when you buy someone else's junkyard. Let's go start cutting some wood. My plan was if I cut a little bit of wood every single day, eventually I'll get through it and I'll have enough rounds that I can just come split whenever I want. Also, if the camera's a little wobbly right now, I'm battling super high winds. I don't know if the mic's picking it up or not, but my little tripod there can't handle too much. So let's go split some firewood. Right, I got my fancy dancy chalk, my tape measure. Let's start measuring this out and cutting things up. When I split this, I did it so there should be no waste pieces. Well, not when I split it, when I cut these. I honestly think I wasted some of this wood. It sat here too long without me doing anything with it. And I think the stuff on this side is getting a little punky, and those logs that I picked up on the other side just feel waterlogged and soft. So, lesson learned, don't procrastinate. Chalk never fails, and it's cheap. All right, let's split these, get these out of the way, and we'll keep going. Today's choice of saw, 462. If it starts. Safety last. pros to stacking it like this: it takes up less space and it looks semi-neat. The cons, unless you want to pull every piece off and cut it individually, you always run the risk of plunging in and doing small little minor cuts, and then that kind of affects you as you're splitting your wood. If you want nice pretty stuff, you sometimes don't always get that, because if you go deep enough and you go to split a chunk that breaks off, you either have a weird looking piece of wood or it doesn't really hold. It's not the same size that you want it to be. So there's pros and cons to everything, but when I can't get around to cutting it, this is my best option, because at least it's off the ground and elevated to the best of its ability. Ideally and realistically, I should have cut this 1.5 years ago when I got it, but I got lazy, I got busy. I didn't follow my method I'm trying to follow right now, which is do a little bit every single day, and eventually it'll get done. There's actually a YouTuber who I think last year or the year before did a build on a tractor, and he followed that method and it got done. I'm intrigued to know if any of you guys know who I'm talking about. Enough talking though, let's get back into it after some precision marking with my chalk. Wasn't a long time, but I got a decent amount started. At least I can start splitting this and kind of go through that whole pile one by one, so I don't have an obnoxious amount of rounds sitting on here, and the next thing you know, I got weeds growing up through it, like that disgusting pile over there that I have to deal with next. This is my oldest wood, so this is the stuff that goes first. I'm going to tidy this up quickly, and then I'll meet you guys back at the garage to go over that Kioti third function that I had issues with that I think I fixed. Okay, so the other day I was using my grapple on my tractor. It's actually the video where I took down that tree over my fence, and I had no issues while I was using it. Then a couple days later, I was using my pallet forks, and when I put my forks on, or I went to go put my forks on, I lost power in my loader, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I thought I hit my rear remote switch, and I turned that on by mistake. I looked over, that was turned off, everything looked okay on that. But I could hear a pump running or something trying to cycle, and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So I ended up wiggling my joystick and it stopped. And then I started thinking, well, maybe it's my third function. So as I was going through my third function, the buttons were okay, everything seemed to be okay, so I just left it. And then I went to go use my forks after I attached them, and I pulled my loader joystick towards me to curl, and it turned back on. And I had to shake it again, push all the buttons quickly, and it turned back off. So I couldn't figure out what was going on. I called my dealer, spoke to my dealer. They never really heard of that situation going on. He gave me a couple points over the phone saying, well, make sure that the wires that run underneath by the pedals are looking okay. Like they're not rubbed through, they're not stuck on something. You don't have a bare wire that's shorting out. So that was the first thing I did. Checked all that. Everything was in a loom. So I was like, okay, maybe it was a one-off. Same thing happened to me when I took the tractor back out again. So I figured I'm going to dive into this a little bit more. Turns out there's the two buttons, and I'll show you guys in a minute. The new CK2620s come with the two orange buttons on the front of the joystick. Those two buttons, although they looked okay, and when I pushed them when the tractor was off, they would click. When I turned the tractor on, the button closest to the door, and I believe that is the open function, was hypersensitive to the point where the slightest of touch, almost like it was a touchscreen on a phone, would turn it on. So I was like, okay, either the module inside is stuck, the actual internal electronic switch, or there's something going on with this button. So I took apart the whole joystick. After I took it apart, I cleaned everything. There was a little bit of dust in there. This being a cab model, you don't have to worry about it too much, but there was a tad bit of dust. Washed it all out. The one thing I noticed was the orange buttons, I guess when they were coming out of the factory setting, there was a little bit of plastic, residual plastic around the edges that was kind of sharp and a little bit bulged out. So I got to thinking, I was like, well, maybe it's stuck, right? Maybe I've worn it enough that it's hung up on something and it's holding it down far enough and not returning back that the slightest touch is touching it. So after I put everything back together, or brought it back outside, I sanded down all the edges on both of them, made sure everything was nice and smooth. I've put it back together, and knock on wood, I haven't had an issue since. I've put my hand all over the joystick. I've rubbed the buttons, done everything I've needed to do. I can't make it recreate what it was doing before, which makes it to me sound like it's fixed. I don't know if you guys have an issue like that or have had an issue like that. If you have, hopefully that's a simple fix for you. At least for me, a new cost to run all the new electronics through it and then a whole new third function switch would have been about 450 bucks, somewhere in between. I'm glad I didn't spend that for a 10-minute fix. So let me show you. There's a couple screws to take it apart, super simple, and it'll have you running in no time if this is your issue. So these are the two buttons that I'm talking about. This right here, this was the button that was hypersensitive. This side I could touch, no problem, but it was this inside corner that the minute you rubbed it, it would turn on the hydraulics. Nothing happened with the button outside by my knee, but right here is where everything's going to tie in. And if you follow this line, that's your electronic wire that's going to go up through your joystick. So everything was nice and clean, nothing's rubbing. And if you pop this boot right here, you can actually see the wire going in through your joystick. So for whatever reason it's too tight, you can fish a little bit more and sort of feed it back up. To take this off, you don't need to take off the back screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. This will pop off and then everything will be attached to it on the inside. There's 3 more screws. I don't want to take it off for you guys right now only because this is plastic. I've had this on and off quite a few times. Sooner or later, I'm going to lose the fate and I'm going to strip out this plastic from going in and out. There's 3 more little screws inside where the electronic switch sits in against this. You take that off. I touched the switches. Everything was nice. Everything was solid and clicked. After I cleaned it, put it all back together, everything is nice and stiff again. And when you haul this, these aren't turning on. And when you touch this, I used to be able to rub it like that and the relay would turn on. Now only when I click does that relay turn on. Nothing's working anymore, which is the way it should be. So easy fix, saved myself 400 bucks. Hopefully if that happens to you guys or your buttons are too stiff, that's something you can look into and save yourself a trip to the dealer and a couple dollars. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for you today. Again, as always, if you liked what you see, if you have anything that you're interested in, please let me know. I'd appreciate a thumbs up on this one if you liked it and consider subscribing. Till next time, thank you for joining me on this side of the woods.